Hey guys, what's up? Yep, camera's working again. Crappy camera, yay! Um, and yeah, I am really sorry about the bright light, but it's the location. What can I do? I could lug the laptop somewhere else, but I'm gonna be, getting ready to go to bed after this, so F that. Anyway, oh, I guess before I start, remember how in the last video I said that I was thinking about putting like pieces of my writing up. I decided to take the plunge, so I'll put a link below if you guys are interested, so you can see the story. I'm going to be updating it every Monday and Friday, so enough of that crap. Let's get on with this. You guys know I don't really like talking about race because it always ends up hearing the same stupid shit over and over again, and I always gotta deal with the same type of stupidity every time it's brought up. But I really do think that I need to address this one particular thing that I've been noticing is cropping up a lot, and it's making me scratch my head. I feel it's like one of those moments where I feel like a clarification needs to be made. And it's on this whole thing about equality. I don't know why it is that the people who are trying to assert that yes, there are differences between human beings seem to think that those who argue against them are completely unaware of that fact. Especially if they happen to be, scientists, or at least have a strong scientific background, or at least have read the literature. It's not that you're dealing with people so ridiculously stupid or blind that they don't know that there are some genetic differences between people, or that there are some physiological differences between people. It's obvious that there are differences between people. You can put two identical twins right next to each other and there's still going to be some differences between them. Very minute, but they're there. This is not what's being argued. That's not what people are talking about when they're talking about equality. Whether, equality in a society, or, asking for, when they're saying that there is equality among, the human race, whether biologically or, culturally. That's not what's being discussed. What's being discussed, at least when we're dealing mostly with the scientific argument, is the potentiality of the human beings. They're not saying that every single last human being is a carbon copy of another. That's not the argument. They're simply stating that the genetic differences between all of us are so minute that it doesn't separate us into completely separate categories as if you're separating us into completely separate species, as some people would like to say, or would they use the term subspecies or something like that. Nah, that's not what these differences amount to. They're not that strong. Scientifically, there is no basis for that. And I know people are yelling and screaming, yes they are, but this sort of reminds me of the person looking at the sun. Yes, it is going around the earth. There are the way things seem, and then there's the way things are. And scientifically, there is yet to be any biologist or geneticist worth his salt, or her salt, sorry. I have to say sorry because there are a lot of females in the field. You will not find any of them who's going to be saying, this, from what we've seen of, human genetics, there is definitely some major separation between this group of people and this group of people. You won't find them. Oh, sure, you'll find them among a couple of rogue psychologists, but the people who actually work with the raw data, the people who are actually studying the cells and the DNA and life and such like that, no, sorry. You're not finding them these days, this day and age. This is what they mean by equality. It's not that everyone is exactly the same. That's bullshit. Kindergarten kid could point that out. It's the potentiality. Now, it's definitely more apparent that it's potentiality when you're speaking from a cultural or societal aspect. That every single human being should at least be given an equal chance to pursue whatever path that they want to walk. If their talents lend themselves to a particular path, they're going to pursue that particular path, period. That's what human beings do. That's, part of that whole, variety is a spice of life thing, in so many different ways and in so many different aspects. It's, the way our the way we were raised, the culture in which we were living in, the perspective that you might happen to have on life. All that will determine what particular paths you walk, as well as whatever factors that the society itself decides to infringe upon you. If they happen to be separating you in certain categories, that's also going to influence your path. But if we're going to be talking about just you as a raw human being before any outside influences get in, unless there is some type of genetic defect in you, the potentiality for you to pursue whatever path is there. It's you as the individual who is more than the sum of your parts, which will determine where you go. And all that people who are asking for an equal society is asking for is that you allow the human beings to pursue their paths without obstruction, unless it's harming the society that they're in. Now, considering that the scientific data out there does not support certain human beings being better geared toward a particular aspect and another group of beings better at a particular aspect, considering there's no scientific basis for this, and considering that what we would consider a fair and just society would allow people to just pursue what they want and go with what their talents pursue them for, I don't really see what the hell the problem is, and why people try to keep insisting that there are these major differences. The only thing really that would make you think that is some type of cultural bias, or worse, some type of inherent bigotry on your part. And I've seen this from everyone. I know everybody's ragging on the white nationalists right now. It's probably because right now they're making the most fucking noise. But we also have to remember that they're not the only ones doing this. I can speak from personal experience that there are people, all colors, shapes, and sizes, who have their own interesting types of bigotry. It's just that they're not as loud as other people, but they're there. You will find them. And they have their own views on who they think are the superior ones walking around, despite the fact that, it doesn't really take much looking around with actual open eyes to see that, look, you're going to find human beings being able to do whatever the hell they want in all walks of life and being able to do it. For instance, the stereotype of white men can't jump. There's a lot of white guys out there who will probably know how to dunk a basketball if you really look around. Sorry. For all this talk, the stereotype of Chinese guys all knowing martial arts, I know plenty of them who couldn't even throw a straight punch at all. At all. And meanwhile, the dorky white guys with no skills are beating the shit out of motherfuckers in the UFC. Where your talents lie, what you decide to walk yourself towards, determines who you are. And the people who are asking for equality are just simply saying, can you allow these people to walk the paths that they want to walk? Do not, assume what they're capable of. Actually see what they're capable of and let them do it. And can you at least acknowledge the scientific data that states that in the grand scheme of things, the genetic differences between all of us, while there, are so significantly small that they do not separate us at all. In fact, because of all the constant inbreeding that we've been doing throughout the centuries, I'm sorry, mixed race thing, that whole thing about mixed races is not a new concept. It's been going on for quite some time, a long fucking time. Excuse the expression. With all this going on, gonna have to admit, I'm sorry, human beings are very similar to one another because we're all the same freaking species. That's all they're saying when they're talking about equal. I know technically you can't really say we're equal because that means we'd all be clones of one another. But when they're saying equal, they're talking about the potentiality and they're talking about how minute the genetic differences are. I don't see why this is so hard to understand, and I'm really getting sick and tired of people arguing, we're not the same. No shit. That's not the argument. Okay? That's not what people really mean when they're saying things like, we're all the same. I mean, if there is somebody saying that, then yeah, there's probably something wrong with them. But that's not what's being argued here. We're talking about potentiality. And we're talking about the fact that we are pretty much one species. We're all the same freaking species. We're all the same adaptive species, which is something that people need to remember. And we've all learned how to adapt on this planet pretty much the same way, through the use of our brains and coming up with tools, both physical and abstract. That's our skill. That's our function. And we've all found different ways to do it, since the brain is very adaptable and very creative. And we've done it all around the world. And when you have different perspectives and different cultures coming together in one particular area, and everyone examines each other's perspectives and uses it to further their own knowledge, you will find new advanced ways of developing physical and abstract tools in order to adapt with the world around us. That's how you get progress. The advancements in technologies, the advancements in our sciences and discoveries all around the world and beyond our planet were all they were all based on us coming together and looking at things from different angles and different perspectives to get at, quote unquote, the truth or the heart of the matter. But when you happen to live in a homogenous type society separate from everyone else, you have no one else's viewpoints to examine your own, to point out any flaws, or to give you a new perspective to go, hey, I didn't think of that before, let's try that angle. That's why, no matter how much people try to tell you that a homogenous society will always advance, that's not true. I know people point to Japan and Switzerland, but you guys seem to forget Japan was able to advance because of their interactions with the Western world. Switzerland happened to have always had, well, not always, but they've had a long history of strong foreign interaction with other societies, constantly interacting with them and sharing ideas with them, and then coming back and then bringing it to their own spots. And then mingling with other people, letting other people mingle into their area. Not in a huge amount, but it's happened. And if you look at advanced civilizations, the huge empires, there was always an influx of people that came in and lived there. And then it blew up. And people wanted to go to where the main places, because it's like that's where all the money is, that's where all the glory is, as they were conquering. And they were able to get new insights from that. I don't understand why people who look at history don't seem to get that. I know this is a different topic than what I started with, but basically I'm just trying to show how, because of our constant intermixes and because of the way human society has to advance, i.e. by being what we are, social animals, and communicating with one another and interacting with one another, this is how we survive, this is how we grow, this is what we do. To try to say that, no, you're supposed to separate each other, you're kind of going against what you are, a social animal. And you're going against what one of your greatest strengths is, taking other perspectives, examining them, and building upon them in order to further advance the human species and the human race as we adapt on this planet and come up with better ways to survive on it. Is this really so freaking hard to understand? Are people's biases so strong that they are blind to that one simple aspect? This is not about me trying to assimilate with people better than me, or trying to grab somebody's daughter, or any of that type of old idea bullshit that you happen to hear from these people, especially the ones who are really, really hateful. This is about coming to terms with the simple facts that we're not nearly as separate as we think we are, and we borrow from each other more than we want to admit. That's all I'm going to say for now, because this is going too long. Catch you guys later. By the way, did any of you people see The Secret of Kells yet? I finally got to see it yesterday, and I've watched it at least 4 or 5 times now. If you haven't seen that movie yet, watch it. It's gorgeous. Seriously, check it out. Oh man, this has become one of my favorite animations to watch now. Check that shit out. It's gorgeous. Seriously. Do it. Right now. Go watch it. Go watch it. It's free on Netflix. Go watch the shit.